If you have any questions, I'll very much be happy to open the floor. Yes, sure. Matthew.
Thanks a lot. Matthew Lee, Inner City Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Thanks a lot for this briefing, and good luck with the event for the memorial. I wanted to ask about because you're with the working group. I read the report this week about the visit to Sweden, and I just want to use that as an example. Did you go? Basically, it seemed to say that people of African descent in Sweden are being marginalized, you made a very detailed findings about sort of what were surprising to me about really kind of overt racism that the government may be trying to counteract, but that exists in the society. And I wanted to know, can you say, in this decade, what are your other visits that are foreseen? What are the problems you see in these countries, and say even here in the United States with the events of Eric Garner and in Ferguson, Missouri? Do you see this as consistent as part of the mandate of your working group? Thanks a lot.
Well, before I answer you, may I just recognize the presence of the chair of the working group of experts on people of African descent, Madame Mireille Mendez-France. Yes, she's sitting there. And I would prefer, because she led the delegation to Sweden, I really would prefer if she would answer that question. I really want to give respect to the chair. And so if you want to come forward, Mireille?
Madame Mendez-France, please, feel free to come forward. Please. No, she can sit here so that she will be properly recorded. Please. You have my seat. I will stand. You are most welcome. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just could I ask you to repeat because I...
Oh, sure. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Sweden specific, but I was brought to mind because I know that earlier this week you put out the report on Sweden, which when I read it, I wasn't. It seemed to be a pretty stark situation with banking services withdrawn from certain neighborhoods, and so I wanted to sort of put it in the context of the decade. What other countries are you thinking of visiting? What do you see as the problems in places where people of African descent are now residing? And even if you could say something on the United States and the cases here in New York and in Ferguson, Missouri, do you see that as consistent with the mandate of your working group to look into those kind of cases? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Thank you, Verene, for giving me the floor on this particular issue. During the country visit in Sweden, that's right. A lot of social services were expelled from certain areas. That's absolutely right. But also from everywhere in the world. It's not specific to Sweden or US or whatever the country. There is a logic now imposed by a financial crisis and also by the liberal model to have a less state and to ensure some social services through foundation or private sectors. And therefore, the situation for people of African descent is very, very difficult because they are more or less invisible, marginalized, and with that, they are now in a very difficult social and economical situation. But it's common everywhere. It's not specific to one country. And it is one of our mandate, one of point of our mandate is to see how the situation is going on in different countries and to make recommendations to states for ameliorate or change the situation of people of African descent. But the main problem for the people of African descent, they are victims of this non-opened history related to slave trade, enslavement, and colonialism. And what is emerging from this history and the ideology who organize this history is still there. We could say coloniality of power. The kind of coloniality of power is still there and have a lot of impact for the people of African descent.
Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you.
Will you please like to add something?
Yes.
You come from Brazil, a country that has one of the largest African populations in the world. Can you please add to that?
Just to answer another part of your question, you were asking us about country visits. And Your Excellency, you are correct. The reports are all on our website for countries we have already visited, and you can compare with what you're seeing today. But we have a standing invitation to visit Canada. We are pursuing that. We also wish to go to an African country. So over the next 2 years, we will be exploring the possibility of going to Canada, an African country, and a Caribbean country, because I think sometimes we believe that because certain countries have majority populations of African descent, that there is no racial discrimination and so on. So we have that. And we have also been talking about the possibility of returning to the United States. We visited the United States 5 years ago. Our mandate allows us to have a follow-up visit if we consider that there are still some issues unresolved.